Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have another Mattel Jurassic World Fierce Changers figure to take a look at. This is the one that I stated from the very beginning that I would probably be picking up. Oddly enough, it was the last one that I found to purchase, but we have the Carnotaurus and Stegosaurus. So of course I was going to get this one. It's a Carnotaurus. If you are a fan or a viewer of this channel and you have been watching for some time, you know very clearly that I love Carnotaurus. So this one was an inevitability to enter my collection. Knew I was going to get this one, even if I'm not a big fan of the line as a whole. And you can see this is another of those smaller versions, the almost, attack pack, wild pack sort of, or danger pack, because it is called a double danger version, of the Fierce Changers figure, because it's presented in a similar way, and it's also quite small, which may or may not be a good thing, I guess. But you can see here on the back, we have a shot of the figure and how it transforms from one dinosaur to another, and you can also see over here, we have an image showing off the other two in this wave of these Fierce Changers, one of which is the T-Rex Ankylosaurus, and then the other is a Parasaurolophus and Baryonyx, which we will also be reviewing here on the channel very soon. So, let's pop this package open and we'll check out our Carnotaurus Stegosaurus version of the Fierce Changers figure. And here is our Carnotaurus, and he looks interesting, to say the least. He's definitely not the best figure that I've seen in the world, that's for sure. Certainly not the best Mattel Carnotaurus, but I kind of like him, and I don't know why. I guess it's just because I'm looking at him through biased eyes, since I love Carnotaurus, so I'm almost like trying to love anything Carnotaurus related. One thing I will say straight away, though, that I noticed that's very awkward, because it has a Stegosaurus, that it turns into. You've got the plates here sticking out of the underside of the Carnotaurus. It almost looks like the Carnotaurus ate a baby Stegosaurus. The baby Stegosaurus has now grown in his stomach and is currently tearing out of him like a scene from Aliens. So very interesting as far as that goes. But again, it looks a little better, I think, than the T-Rex and Ankylosaurus set did, just because I feel like the actual detailing looks a little bit higher quality, a little bit nicer on the Carnotaurus compared to the way it looked on the T-Rex. So let's jump to a closer look at it and check it out. So starting here at the head sculpt of our Carnotaurus, you can see as a whole, I definitely think the Carno looks better than the T-Rex. I think the overall appearance, although obviously, again, exaggerated, looks at least a little closer to what the Carnotaurus looks like in the films. The teeth also are still large, but they're not quite as awkward looking as the T-Rex. And then you can also see there is actually a little extra color, because we didn't have a whole lot going on with the T-Rex version. We do have some of this darker tone here around the eye and kind of spotting and splotching here around the eye, which is a plus. You can also see the eyes painted with a yellow, given a black pupil. We primarily have an orange tone for the head and upper body of the Carnotaurus, and then you have a dark brown here for the lower jaw, as well as that color around the eye. We do have an articulated jaw, which is actually quite a bit smoother than it was on the T-Rex. Kind of impressed me right there. You can see, though, that once it opens its mouth again, it's a little bit awkward looking as far as the appearance to the teeth and the tongue and everything, but it looks, I think, again, also a little better than our T-Rex version did. You can see that we do have the horns up here on the top of the head, something Carnotaurus, of course, is known for, and they look okay. You can actually see there's actually some nice detail even to the horns, and when you get nice and close, you can see that the skin texture of the Carnotaurus doesn't look bad. It actually looks pretty decent, kind of what I expected to see on the T-Rex, but didn't. You can see that we do have the osteoderms moving down the course of the Carnotaurus. Man, my camera doesn't want to focus on it. But we do have 3 rows. We've got one on the side, one running down the spinal column, and then one on the opposing side. And as you move down into the body, you continue to see the osteoderms and stuff. Again, exactly as you would expect for a Carnotaurus. We also have some really nice looking skin texture, and there is actually some speckling going on this one, which I didn't notice on the previous version, which is something Mattel does add from time to time. And as you lead out, you've got a nice curve in the tail, and again, more of those osteoderms and stuff moving through. Of course, the arms are not going to look good because we have the legs of the Stegosaurus here present, and that's just the way it's going to be. When it comes to these ones, at least with the larger ones, you kind of have the ability to make them look a little bit different because you can pull the nails out for that dinosaur, whereas with these smaller ones, that's not the case. The legs are just there, and that's the way it is. But you can at least transition the feet into having the toes and everything and the nails of the Carnotaurus, which is a plus. But then you also have the feet of the Stegosaurus Stegosaurus here on the back of the leg of our Carnotaurus, whereas with the larger versions, these wouldn't really be noticeable. You wouldn't see those because you kind of push them in. I am seeing a nice gloss coat on the nails, though, for the Stegosaurus. Look at that. That's a really, really nice gloss coat, so that's cool. But you can see, again, you've got osteoderms and stuff, and nice-looking skin texture as you move through the leg. Same deal with what should be, presented as the arm of the Carnotaurus. And now we're going to kind of transform our dinosaur here. I'm going to have to try to do this in a way where I can... Okay, so there we go. We got the tail sticking out right away, and it's nice to see we actually have the thagomizers painted. But we've got to move these limbs out of the way so we can open this. And maybe... There we go. And now we've got to... Boy, it's not open all the way. Something's prohibiting it. It's this front leg here. There we go. So now we can pull the head out, bring the head around, trying to figure out how we do this correctly, where it's going to, there we go, where it's going to close correctly. So now we then have to reposition the legs, put the toenails in, or the toes and nails in, and then reposition these, bend the knee correctly, which somebody has commented on a few times in my previous reviews that I wasn't correctly bending the legs for the herbivores in the back leg, which is very possible. I didn't notice that. So for now, we're going to leave it like this just so we can take a look at it. Then we'll try to fix it a little bit better when we get down there on the actual review station. But you can see that the head looks pretty decent on this. And again, similar to what we saw with the Ankylosaurus, we've got the beak painted, which looks really nice. Super grumpy look on the face of the Stegosaurus. You've also got the eyes painted with an orange, given a nice black pupil. I actually think the Stegosaurus head sculpt looks pretty nice. I definitely like that. And then you've got some plates picking up here. They are unpainted, unfortunately. They're just the grayish tone for the body of the Stegosaurus, but you can see that the Stegosaurus as well has that speckling going on like we saw on the Carnotaurus version, and you can see the detail looks okay. A little muted on this, I think, compared to what I was expecting, but it looks okay. As you move up into the body, you can now see the orange tone leading up from the Carnotaurus, but then the grayish tone on the upper side. We do have plates up here on the top, a few, not a whole lot, just a few running down the center of the spine, and they're painted with a green. The detailing of those as well is not really all that great, not near as nice as I was expecting, but not terrible either. And then you lead out into that really little tail, and you do have the thagomizers out there, and the thagomizers are painted with a yellowish tone, so that's a plus. And, right now it definitely looks like the herbivore versions look way better than the carnivore versions, because even though I love Carnotaurus, if I were to display this, I almost think I would, leave it as the Stegosaurus, because I feel like the Stegosaurus, yet again, looks way better than the Carnotaurus did, just mostly because once you actually have the legs out and it looks like legs, it looks way better than trying to disguise legs as arms like we do with the theropods. So it always, I think, looks better when it's the herbivore version, but definitely looks pretty cool, I think, compared to the Carnotaurus. So even though I'm not a huge fan of these figures, some of them can look okay at certain points in time. As far as the articulation aspect and everything goes, it's exactly the same as it was on the Ankylosaurus and T-Rex version, whereas you have the articulated jaw for the T-Rex. Same deal here with the Carnotaurus, you have the articulated jaw, but you don't have an articulated jaw with the herbivore version. And then you've got areas of articulation in the legs, which is 3 different areas in the hip, or shoulder, and then the elbow and knee, and then the wrist and ankle. And that's really about it as far as articulation goes. Of course, you have the ability to articulate it back into the Carnotaurus, but as far as actual posability goes, you don't have a whole lot else going on as far as articulation goes. So let's see if I can get this in the position that it should be in where it doesn't look terrible. So there we go. That's pretty much exactly as it looks on the actual box art for the Stegosaurus. So again, I think he looks kind of cute, kind of cool, but just terrible when he transitions into the Carnotaurus. But as far as the size goes, it's probably going to be pretty similar to what we had seen last time around. You're looking at about 4 3/4 inches in length, or around 12 centimeters, maybe a little over, or about 3.5 inches or 9 centimeters. And this one is a little bit taller than the Ankylosaurus was because, of course, we have the plates up here on the back. And the Carnotaurus would be fairly similar in size, I would imagine. But I'm not going to transition it back to the Carnotaurus quite yet because I really don't think it's a big deal, not a huge difference. We will, of course, get a size comparison yet again As we have Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line here, next to our Fierce Changers Stegosaurus Carnotaurus figure. And you can see, again, pretty darn similar in size to the previous one, as I would imagine at this point all of the figures in this smaller range will be. And then here is the Stegosaurus facing off against the Ankylosaurus versions of these Fierce Changers. And I'm actually noticing that the T-Rex version did have a speckling. I just noticed that. Well, I guess currently the Ankylosaurus, but you can see some speckles there on the leg. Regardless, got off track completely, but you can see again the figures are a very similar size overall. And as I said earlier, I definitely think they look better when they are the herbivore versions over the carnivores. And then just like we did last time around for our final comparison, we have the larger version of the Fierce Changers, as we have the Indoraptor here next to the Stegosaurus, just to give you one more idea of a size. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Fierce Changers, Stegosaurus, and Carnotaurus is just as the others all are. Again, kind of like a hit or miss depending on who you are, because some people do like these, some people think they're really cool, other people like myself not so much, and then there's other people that absolutely despise the existence of these figures. I'm kind of in the middle where it's like it can look kind of cool, especially with this newest wave of figures, these, herbivore versions, the Ankylosaurus and Stegosaurus. I think when they're actually transformed, they look pretty nice. I love stylized Mattel dinosaurs. I've been a big fan of the Snap Squads, the Bendy Biters, things like that, and now we have Fierce Changers, which I'm not such a huge fan of, but at least when it comes to the herbivore versions, I think they look kind of cool. But then once you transform it back to the Carnotaurus, it looks super awkward. Of course, I like it just because it's a Carnotaurus, or at least I like it a little more than the others, but it still by no means is a great looking figure. I think the entire idea going into this of transforming one dinosaur to another is pretty fun, and as a whole, it's definitely something kids will love. I don't care what we think about it as a whole, kids are gonna like it. I can't think of any kid that wouldn't look at a dinosaur that transforms into another dinosaur and find some fun aspect to that. So kids are definitely going to love it, and of course that's what Mattel was aiming this entire toy line at, was children. So it is a smart idea on the part of Mattel, but when it comes to adult collectors like myself and a lot of you, we probably aren't going to find near as much enjoyment in these as children will. But again, as a whole, it's a little bit cooler, I think, than some of the others, but still by no means a very good figure. Regardless, if you are interested in grabbing this for yourself, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that, so check that link, go grab this figure if you'd like, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.